Good afternoon. This is the Midday Brief. Welcome to 1 hour of comprehensive news. My name is Jennifer Jane Asante. Now, in the headlines this afternoon, what is your rating of President Mahama's first 100 days in office? A better Ghana or something else? Hemophilia is an uncommon condition that is inherited and prevents the blood from clotting normally. We will be finding out more about that in just a bit. Striking public medical doctors have rescinded their decision to withdraw emergency services starting April 15, 2013. The doctors will, however, persist with their withdrawal of services to new outpatients. We have these and more on business, showbiz, sports, and international news. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. Now, hemophilia is an uncommon condition that is inherited and prevents the blood from clotting normally. People who have hemophilia may experience prolonged and excessive blood loss following accidents or injuries. Internal bleeding, usually in the joints, is also possible. Babies who have hemophilia at birth are lacking in a protein known as the clotting factor, which causes the blood to clot, also known as coagulation. Now, people suffering with hemophilia have problems relating to this protein. We've been joined in the studio by Martin Boache, who is the president of the Hemophilia Society of Ghana, and Dr. Yvonne Brew, a pediatrician at the 37 Military Hospital. The theme for this year's celebrations is 50 years of advancing treatment for all, the role of Ghana Hemophilia Society. So let's delve directly into the topic. I've explained hemophilia. It just sounds a little abstract to somebody who's never heard of the condition before. Perhaps, Dr. Brew, you would be in a better position to break it down further.
Yes, hemophilia is not very common. It's a disease that occurs like about 1 in 5,000 to 10,000. That's why many people have not heard about it. But hemophilia, as you rightly said, is a condition where the blood of patients are unable to clot, or blood of people are unable to clot. And basically that's it. So
does it mean that you never stop bleeding?
Okay, so what happens is a person gets injured, just a small injury, and you expect that within a few minutes the blood should stop flowing. But for them, the blood does not stop flowing. It continues to flow continuously till it takes a while, then it stops on it. But by the time it stops, perhaps the patient would have lost so much blood. Or if the person, for instance, a child bumps the head on the floor, as it's a very common condition, you expect that after a while the swelling should stop. But for a child with hemophilia, because the bleeding takes a long time before it stops, the bleeding continues and the bump gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's hemophilia.
All right. Now, you've explained it pretty much in layman's terms, so the average person can tell or have a fair idea when they have it or when they see somebody with it. But I'm sure you do further diagnoses in the hospital. It's not just, oh, it took 3 hours for this cut to stop bleeding that determines it. Is there something further?
Yes, but there are a lot of tests we do in the hospital. But our concern is for parents and people listening to know which child or which man or man especially should come to hospital. It's a condition that is inherited in some cases, but in a third of cases it's not inherited. In a third of cases it's not inherited, it just comes. So you find a child who, for instance, is crawling, falls down, and the leg starts to swell, the knee joint starts to swell. We would want that child should come to hospital. Yes, we have some labs we do at the Kumbungu Teaching Hospital Hematology Lab to check if the child has hemophilia.
All right. Now, Mr. Boache,
yes, ma'am.
She mentioned that it's a condition largely in the males.
Yep.
Are you a person living with hemophilia?
No, I'm a parent. I have a child with hemophilia.
All right.
And his condition is called hemophilia B. Okay. So there are two types. Maybe doctor will explain to you better, but there are two types. Condition factor A that demands factor A or factor B. So my child is a patient with factor B deficiency.
All right, and what is that like?
Just like she explained, the two are similar in the way they affect the patient. When you have a bump or a cut, bleeding does not stop until after some time. And if you don't take care with a head bump, like she said, it could cause fatality. So they are similar. Okay.
All right. Now, so he has introduced something new, 2 types of hemophilia. If you could explain that to us.
Okay. Now, hemophilia, we have 2 types, the A and B. Now, when a person has an injury, no matter the small, you would notice that within a short time, you will see a clot forming at the spot. So different things in the blood come together to form that clot. Now, in hemophilia, they have some part of the things that form the clot, but they do not have what we call the coagulation factor 8 or coagulation factor 9. So in hemophilia A, they do not have the coagulation factor 8. And they form about 80% of all children or all people who come with hemophilia. And then the hemophilia B do not have the coagulation factor 9. So you hear of, but basically they all present the same way because they do not have that coagulation factors. When they get injured, bleeding does not stop when it should stop.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that it could either be inherited or it could just happen in a person. Is it something that happens at birth, or in your later years you can develop the condition?
Okay, it all happens before a person is born. If you inherit it, now usually those who inherit it will inherit it from their mothers, and they're usually male. Then we know a bit of biology. Then your mother will present the X and X chromosome, and your father will present the X and Y chromosome. So you take the X from your mother and the Y from your father to be a boy. So since the mother is carrying it on her X, if she has it on her X, then the child, a male who is XY, will have it. So it's usually found in male. And it's but then in a few times, whilst the baby is in the womb, the genes can mutate, can change, and someone who did not have hemophilia before can just start to develop hemophilia from birth. Right. And usually the first sign we notice is a male child who goes for circumcision, and the bleeding goes on and on and on and on and on, and the child has to be rushed to the hospital for blood transfusion. I think that's a very clear case that child could possibly have hemophilia, and that child needs to be investigated.
All right, so if a child hasn't had a cut or a bump per se, is there anything you would use to tell that this child has hemophilia?
No, unless we do not screen routinely for everyone. We screen for those we think have symptoms of hemophilia. Or in families, there are some families that because yes, if you see one son who has it, then automatically you go on to check for the other sons in the family. But generally, we do not screen all children, but we screen affected families who we think might have hemophilia.
All right. So, aside the proficient bleeding, what are the other symptoms of this condition?
Now, all the symptoms you see are associated with the bleeding. What happens is, it's not all bleeding we get that comes out. For instance, a child is playing football, he hits his knee against another child. You expect it will hurt, and you might see a small bump, but it should resolve. But in hemophilia, that bump will not resolve. It will just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if such a child hurts that knee frequently, after a while the bump does not go away, the bump stays, so the knee becomes deformed. So you see the child with a deformed knee, a big knee deformed. If it happens to the head, the child can just die from the bleeding. If it happens to any part of the body, so if it's something we see outside, then that's easier to diagnose. But usually they come because the child has hurt the knee or has been circumcised and is just bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. So that's that can lead to early death if it's not treated properly.
All right. You work at 37 Military Hospital, but you mentioned Kolebu and the hematology department in particular. Is there a reason? Is that the only place where you can detect it?
Okay, now because hemophilia, we do not have so many patients with hemophilia. To make management easy, we have centers. So the one center is Kolebu, one center is Konfanoche, and I think one center is Tamale. So if you go to the the regional, the teaching hospitals, you are sure to have a team, but they have resource persons in every hospital around. So if you come to 37, for instance, we have people who know about hemophilia and can help you get the appropriate treatment. But then the labs will be done in Accra, we done at the Kumbungu Teaching Hospital. Then at Kumasi, it will be done at the Kumbungu Teaching Hospital. So we have focal persons in every of the big hospitals.
All right. Now that's all medical, but let's talk about the Ghana Hemophilia Society. Is that a medical organization, or it's just people who want to raise awareness?
The Ghana Hemophilia Society is not a medical society. It's an NGO, and that was formed as a result of having identified my son to be hemophilic. In the year 2004, I took him to the United States to diagnose because I lost my first son due to this condition. Okay. And that time, I think diagnosis or whatever they call it in Kumbungu or elsewhere was quite difficult. So I decided to take him to States for better diagnosis. That was when I discovered that he was hemophilic. So over there, they advised me to come together and help other children with hemophilia, because there and then the awareness of hemophilia was not known very much in Ghana. So basically speaking, it's an NGO that focuses to help identify hemophilia patients and raise awareness in this nation about its incidence and what to do about it.
Okay, so the society was established in 2004?
2005.
2005?
Yes.
Okay. Have you identified a specific area of the country where this condition is more prevalent, that you have, so you would have more activity of the society in that area?
The disease condition is such that it is not concentrated in particular areas or regions. In fact, just like she said, if you have one patient out of every 10,000 population, then it presupposes that in Ghana, where we have about, say, 25 million people population, we are expecting around 2,500, that's an average, people with hemophilia. And that is spread around the country. So at the moment, the main focus of the society is try to spread awareness of the hemophilia countrywide. Mm-hmm. But in so doing, just like she said, we have made particular centers. Kumbungu as a major center for diagnosis, 37 where she is in charge. We have Kumbungu where we have people like Professor Oparisem, Dr. Shirley and others. And gradually we are equipping the regional hospitals about the disease, its symptoms, its diagnosis and stuff, so that they can help the patients wherever they are when they come for identification.
How successful has the society's mission been?
I would say very successful, because if you look at the space of time that we have been in operation, since 2004-05 it was formed, 2009 it was inaugurated officially in Ghana, and between 2009 to date, we have so far on our patient list about almost 80 patients of hemophilia in Ghana. Now, we have also done training. A couple of the medical personnel, I'm talking about doctors and nurses and biomedical scientists in Ghana as a whole, have benefited from training programs outside Ghana. Some have been to the United States for training through the society. Some have been to South Africa, to Kenya, to Gambia, or to be trained to become aware and help hemophilia identification and treatment. So I would say by and large, we are moving on and making progress.
All right. Now, it sounds like this is a rather expensive condition to manage. How do Ghanaians, I mean, the average Ghanaian isn't wealthy, so how is the average Ghanaian going to manage a condition like this in a child or in themselves?
Okay, I'll attempt this, answer this question, but I will leave the other part to Dr. Brew to answer. There are multiple ways of managing this condition, but you're right. It's very expensive to treat this disease because, for instance, one injection, they call it IV or whatever they call it, intravenous injection, whatever, costs an average of $1,000 per injection. Now remember, in the advanced countries where they have medication, this injection of $1,000 plus must be taken prophylactically by patients 3 times in a week.
When you say prophylactically,
means that they must take it even when they don't. There's no evidence of bleeding, but just for protection. Okay. One injection costs $1,000 minimum. Now, In advanced countries where they are well-to-do, they take it about 3 times in a week. Now, in Ghana and developing countries, these resources are not available. However, there are means of treatment like something they call rest, how to educate the patients to rest when they have an episode, how to apply ice, this simple ice block or whatever, just to soothe the pain, because when the episode occurs, it's very, very painful. How you apply ice to soothe the pain, and some other means of management. So apart from the medication, as you said, expensive, there are other means that the doctors use to treat patients when they come. Okay,
that means that the treatment focus is lifestyle management, not necessarily medication.
No, we have medications called the coagulation factors. The factors that are missing, what we do is we have it as injection, which the patient can come to the hospital and be given that injection to replace what the patient does not have. And what he's right, he said that in other places they will give the patient whether or not the patient has a bleed. But for us, we have some donations because of the foundation of the association. So when patients, that's why they form the association, so that if they need a replacement of the drug, it's given to them as an injection to stop bleeding. So, for instance, one good thing the association did when it was first formed was to circumcise all their members who were not circumcised, because they couldn't be circumcised because of the bleeding issues. But now that they have the factors, they could circumcise them, and it was a very good thing to do. So, yes, hemophilia, if they identify, the idea is to identify as many as possible so that they can be helped, and then they can be educated, they can be given treatment if the need arises.
All right. You have a theme this year. What is the role of World Hemophilia about?
The word hemophilia, as the name suggests, is a world body that coordinates all hemophilia societies or foundations worldwide. Now, they set the agenda for what the other societies worldwide must do. And just to go back one step, in 2010, the Ghana Hemophilia Society was accredited as a full member of the World Hemophilia Foundation. In so doing, we become a member of the world body. Now, every year, we are invited to seminars and congresses and other education fora where we are educated on the modern trends of hemophilia treatment and care and research in the field of hemophilia.
Okay, so there's a series of lectures.
A series of lectures, series of education, series of training programs that is organized by the world body that coordinates hemophilia society around the world. And that sets the agenda for identification, treatment, advocacy, and the rest. So that is the role they play in the hemophilia
So
community.
Then the Ghana Hemophilia Society this week has activities lined up?
Yes, we have activities lined up. We doing mainly awareness creation, publicity, because we still have a large number of the population that are not aware of the incidence of hemophilia in Ghana. Before the awareness got into high level, people associated hemophilia condition to rheumatism and that type of this. Doctor will explain to you. So as we move countrywide, the awareness is very, very low. We are lucky that within the Greater Accra region, we have made some headway, but I can say that we still have a lot of other hinterlands to reach and educate them about hemophilia. So the role of the Hemophilia Society is to support the teaching hospitals to propagate the awareness of hemophilia and how to treat the symptoms.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much for spending some time to educate us on hemophilia and letting us know that there is a society that's active in its awareness. Thank you very much, Martin Bache and Dr. Brew. First name Yvonne. All right. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, reports indicate that all right. Now, President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad of the Islamic Republic of Iran and chairman of the Non-Aligned Movement will pay a 2-day official visit to Ghana on Tuesday, April 16. The Iranian leader is expected to hold discussions with President John Dramani Mahama on ways of strengthening the NAM. Mahama Ayariga, Minister of Information and Media Relations, said this in a statement on Saturday. The leaders would co-chair a bilateral meeting to deliberate on issues of mutual interest, the statement said. President Ahmadinejad will leave Accra on Wednesday, April 17, 2013. International relations expert Professor Keith Blue has warned that Ghana is at risk of offending the sensibilities of its Western partners. This assumption comes ahead of the state visit from the Iranian president. The president is scheduled to arrive in Ghana on Tuesday, April 16th for a two-day visit. We have on the line Dr. Vladimir Entry Danso of the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, LESIA, to analyze this visit. Dr. Entry Danso, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So what do you make of this visit?
Well, I do not think it's out of place. Ahmadinejad is the chairman of the non-aligned movement, and one of the greatest pillars of Ghana's foreign policy is non-alignment. It's unfortunate that he is the president of a country which is looked upon as a pariah state, but that doesn't mean Ghana should not play its role as a country which is non-aligned. He is visiting us, he will be visiting Niger, Benin, and then Ghana. And this is not the first time he's been to Africa. He's been to a number of countries, about 12 countries in the past. So several meanings will be read into this anyway. But I don't think the UN has said that no country should have any dealings with Iran. Of course, show me your friend and I'll show your character is a proverb we all know. But then in this sense, we have not shown any indication that Iran is our friend and we are supporting Iran in its acquisition of nuclear weapons and that kind of thing. No. So we couldn't have declined his coming. If we declined also, there will be countries that will also look upon us as enemies. So what Ghana is doing, of course, there will be people, countries will be eyeing us, but they will be listening to what the protocols to be signed would be. If we are going to sign protocols that support them and things like that, then there will be enmity towards us. But I don't think America or any other country is going to look upon Ghana as a state which is supporting Iran. I don't believe so.
All right, so in your expert opinion, we are not exposing ourselves to any risk of sanctions from anybody?
Absolutely. There cannot be sanctions from this front, except if we say we come out boldly to sign protocols that says that we are going to support Iran.
The issue of energy. Now, there are reports that Ghana would be turning to nuclear energy. Wouldn't he be a knowledgeable resource on that particular issue? And if we did discuss this with him, couldn't it easily be misconstrued as offering our support to him?
No, we need to be hysterical about this. Energy is energy.
That was Dr. Vladimir Entry Danso from LESIA. Now let's move on to something else that can easily be blown out of proportion. The first 100 days have become a critical period the world over for a new administration to reshape a nation according to its own agenda and vision. In the case of President John Mahama, this agenda and vision can be summed up into the Better Ghana agenda, a policy vision which, according to the presidency and the National Democratic Congress (NDC), is aimed at correcting several shortcomings of the New Patriotic Party (NPP) era in the areas of the economy, employment, the environment, health, education, the utilities, and several others.
It will be exactly 100 days tomorrow since John Mahama's election as fourth president of the Fourth Republic of Ghana. We bring you assessments from policy and governance analysts on how his administration has done so far. Imani Ghana's Franklin Kujo thinks that John Mahama in his first 100 days has shown clear commitment and provided resources in building the gas infrastructure to the point of 33%. According to Imani, the president has also elevated the Ministry of Women Affairs to focus on general issues of social protection, and that is very good. But Imani believes the answers to the basic economic question of solving resource allocation is clearly not an agenda that seems to meet the urgency of the difficulties the country is currently facing. Policy think tank Imani Ghana also thinks the next 100 days should focus on filling the gaps in our structural and cyclical, illogical policy-making and implementation environment. According to Imani, seeing that the presidency has not changed in the last 10 months, the efforts attempted at solving the larger problems in the country makes a comfortable 47% rating. Center for Advanced Strategic Analysis, CASA, a strategic planning and security organization, was brief in their assessment. They believe the first 100 days have been characterized by labor strikes, power crisis, water challenges, etc. And these have overshadowed President Mahama's performance or the perception as to how well he is doing or has done. So going forward, CASA thinks President Mahama's administration needs to tackle the incidence of galamsey in the country. Media reports show that illegal small-scale mining or galamsey has become more than an environmental problem, but is now also a security problem. Recently, more than 30 Chinese miners armed with guns and ammunition, obviously to guard their concessions, were rooted out by security forces in the Ashanti region. Unfortunately, previous and the current government have not had the political will to decisively stamp out the menace of illegal mining in the country. CASA also admonished the current administration to work towards uniting a very divided country and set clear, measurable, objective targets which can be verifiable over time. So, is John Mahama's administration on track towards delivering on his Better Ghana agenda?
So what does Joe Boy, the average Ghanaian on the street, think about President Mahama's first 100 days in office?
But President 100 days no be there. Me anko ye mam. Anko share. Non trans di non san so come back to that 100 days na ni mistake o yen. On share no nyi nie. Enye nsa so dia 100 days me dey enye mam crack.
On a scale of 1 to 100 over man.
Oh, mama na 1/100. And they make me their man because I'm confessing can do. I'm confessing can cooperate. They make me their air coin. They make me their light. They to be says kabak. Kuna their money power. Kuna could di or buy Indiana could be an problem and I say to be Indiana. Maybe 100 over 1 and I'm the man. Of course, over for my 1 I'm the man.
Asema ubu sa idea. Wabu sa some bet. Ya the call hunam for moi. Said ye or no the decision ya what decide say or pese or yama or mine. Though or not idea ultimate say and yet and I say a yet because already nim the or yama or mine. So yama or mine is about one who move from Mudia. A year or no one dream Edward deciding because but before say ultimately a correct mini panini as Emma a cranny nibim.
I think there's a lot of the things that the president have to put his foot together and probably to do certain things that will not let people talk against his government. One, for about RAG, then there are confirmed issues. I think president have to come clean. Then I was told president said from the campaign trip that when it comes, Accra will be clean. And so when he passed through Accra, you realize there's a whole lot of filth in Accra. All those things supposed to be something that president have to put his feet down for this 100 days. I think the city is supposed to be clean a little bit. And there are 1 or 2 issues that president have to come out and clear the air. Because I don't see why the doctors have to go on strike. Why government has given directive to all the agencies for them to man those places. But when they have a problem, they have to walk straight to the president, which is neither here or there. Why the ministries are there? The ministry have to sit down with the doctors. What is due to the doctors? They have to come out and coffee those money to the doctors so that the people can go to the hospital and do. So I think 100 days or 100 days in the office, well, one way or the other, I'll give him 70 out of 100. Thank you too.
Now, the Judgment Debt Commission has appealed to members of the public who wish to testify or volunteer information to report at the Commission's office to present their documents. A statement signed by George William Dove, Public Relations Officer of the Commission, indicated that the Commission, upon receiving any such statement, will schedule a date for the person to give evidence. All those who intend to testify or volunteer information to the Commission but are unable to be present in person are requested to submit memorandum to the Commission. All such memoranda will be treated confidentially. The Commission resumed public sitting today at the Old Parliament House in Accra. The body will continue sitting on Tuesday, April 16 and Wednesday, April 17, 2013. It said, I beg your pardon, it said representatives from the Bank of Ghana and the Registrar General's Department, who had earlier appeared before the Commission, will be expected to provide additional information, while representatives from the Ministry of Defense would be making their initial appearance. In addition, lawyers for Togbe Bomode Siame, as well as managers of Frandesco West Africa Limited and Mahogany Furniture Company Limited will also be appearing before the Commission, the statement said. The Commission of Inquiry was instituted by President John Dramani Mahama to investigate judgment debt payments and other related matters. Now, the Mayor of Accra, Alfred Oko-Vanderpoy, has indicated the AMA's readiness to tackle various issues affecting the free flow of water through the city's drains. Now, despite being grilled on the Maibana segment of the AM show, Oko-Vanderpoy insisted there are plans to prevent perennial flooding in the capital.
Circle or Donna, the president has given leadership and directions that once this country is going to work, is going to start, we need to do something with Circle. And
in the meantime?
Excuse me?
In the meantime?
I'm telling you that this project will start in the next few weeks. In the next few weeks. So in the next few, today if you go to the club area, you will see that they have stationed their equipment. You see, they are ready to go. And once we have the green light that everything is settled, they have to go, they are going to start working in the college. Also, you see that in the Circle, there is a construction that we started about a year and a half ago, after October last year. We started the construction over there. And the contractor could not continue.
Yeah, we thought you had abandoned the project.
No, we have not abandoned it. So I have directed Conti that as soon as they can start, we want them to go in quickly and complete that construction of the drain, covered drains, put that in place. You see, and then what we are also doing currently is that we are every day cleaning that drain. Every day we are cleaning that drain. We want to make sure that anytime the rains will come, it will have a free flow into the Odo.
I'll leave the decision-making up to you. But reports indicate that striking public medical doctors have rescinded their decision to withdraw emergency services starting Monday, April 15, 2013. The doctors, however, will persist with their withdrawal of services to new outpatients. The decision followed a crunch meeting by the National Executive Council of the Ghana Medical Association in Accra on Sunday, April 14, 2013.
In a statement Sunday after the meeting, the doctors said the meeting largely focused on government's proposal towards paying the accrued market premium arrears of the doctors. The softening of their stance follows numerous pleas from the clergy, the National House of Chiefs, among a number of other revered groups and individuals, to suspend the strike for the sake of innocent patients. The doctors began their strike on Monday, April 8, 2013, in demand for their market premium arrears, which have been outstanding since 2012. They're also demanding a correction of their pension contribution anomalies. Denial of medical services to new outpatients was meant to be the first phase of the strike for a week. The second phase would have been the withdrawal of emergency services, which would have started on Monday, but for their decision to soften their stance. In a statement signed by President of the GMA, Dr. Kwabena Opoku-Edusei, and General Secretary Dr. Frank Sribo, executives of the GMA direct that public sector doctors should continue to withdraw only outpatient services from Monday, April 15, 2013 to Sunday, April 21, 2013, and not to withdraw emergency services as prescribed by the previous roadmap. It also goes ahead to state that if all issues are not completely resolved by Sunday, April 21st, 2013, then, effective Monday, April 22nd, 2013, all emergency services shall be suspended while inpatient care continues until the patients are discharged. Meanwhile, the National Executive Council of GMA advises government to restore the payment of conversion difference, which will ensure that the basic salaries of doctors is restored to the levels of the Health Service Salary Structure Pay Scale 1 before migration onto the single spine salary structure, as stipulated in the government white paper governing the implementation of the single spine pay policy. The GMA will like to see clear written instructions signed by the Minister of Finance to the Controller and Accountants General as to the agreed payment of our market premium and the restoration of all deducted conversion difference, the GMA said. The NEC of GMA advises all doctors to go by this directive and continue to attend divisional meetings for updates.
It's time for us to take a quick break. When we come back, we will bring you the rest of the news. Welcome back. The former Member of Parliament for Kumbungu, Alhaji Umaru Yakubu Kakpagu, has been elected by delegates of the National Democratic Congress in Kumbungu constituency to contest in the April 30 by-election. Alhaji Kakpagu polled 170 votes to beat his closest contender, Dr. Jacob Yakubu Mahama, who polled 84 votes. Abubakar Mohammed polled 14 votes, while Hamza Adam Abdullahi and Baba Ibrahim had 12 and 9 votes respectively. The sixth aspirant, Mohammed Imuru, stepped down at the Congress grounds. The primary, supervised by officials of the Electoral Commission, saw 289 delegates casting their votes, but there were no rejected ballots, according to Joy News' Hashmin Mohammed. In his victory speech, Alhaji Umaru Yakubu Kakpagu said there was no winner or loser in the election, noting that it was an internal battle and my intention is to reach out to my colleagues, unquote. The Kumbungu constituency seat became vacant following the resignation of the Member of Parliament, Alhaji Mohammed Mumuni, to take up a new appointment as the Secretary General of African, Caribbean and Pacific States. Now, economic growth in Ghana continued at a robust pace of 8% in 2012 amid rising fiscal and external imbalances, a mission from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, to Ghana has said. The mission projects a reduction in the fiscal deficit to 10% of GDP this year, about 1% higher than the budget projections, assuming a delayed adjustment in utility tariffs. Despite Ghana's strong economic potential, short-term stability risks have risen. Ghana's strong democratic institutions and favorable prospects for oil and gas continue to attract significant foreign direct investment. Yet, low external buffers and a rising domestic debt ratio expose the economy to risks such as weaker terms of trade, reduced capital inflows, or unanticipated spending needs. Energy sector problems could curtail growth, while excessive government domestic borrowing is raising the cost of credit to the private sector. Both factors have been identified as key growth constraints in Ghana. The mission's still positive assessment of the economy is contingent on the authorities' resolve to confront these challenges decisively. The mission strongly supports the government's ambitious transformation agenda centered on economic diversification, shared growth and job creation, and macroeconomic stability. Rebuilding buffers to safeguard stability is now the main priority. This requires lower budget deficits to contain external pressures and keep debt sustainable. In due course, this will also allow for a reduction in interest rates. Going forward, successful economic transformation will require a realignment of spending away from wages and subsidies towards infrastructure investment. A ballooning wage bill, if untamed, will bring debt to levels that could endanger the government's transformation agenda. The wage bill in 2012 rose by 47%, with much of the factors explaining the increase not yet quantified. In addition, deferred wage payments from the single-spine salary reform were twice the level included in the supplementary budget. The mission urged the government to gain control over the wage bill. It recommended a thorough audit of the 2012 payroll and welcomed that the government had already started that process. The government's deficit target of 6% of GDP by 2015 will keep public debt high and buffers low. The mission recommended an additional fiscal adjustment of 3% of GDP by 2015, using a combination of revenue and expenditure measures. This would lessen the public burden and raise official reserves towards the authority's targets of more than 4 months of imports, up from 2.8 months currently. It said the target was consistent with the mission's own analysis of optimal reserves, which suggests that a cover of 4.2 months of imports would provide a reasonable cushion against plausible shocks. The mission shared the Bank of Ghana's views on keeping a tight monetary policy stance for the time being. Both actual inflation and inflation expectations have risen recently, with upside risk from the sharp increase in government borrowing. To strengthen the signaling role of the policy rate within the inflation-targeted framework, the mission recommended narrowing the gap with current market rates. Successful fiscal consolidation will allow an easing of interest rates in due course, provided inflation expectations decline to levels consistent with the achievement of the target. On its return to Washington, the team will prepare a staff report that is tentatively scheduled to be discussed by the IMF's Executive Board in mid-June. Now, the International Monetary Fund has also renewed its call for the total removal of fuel and utility subsidies. According to the IMF, this will significantly reduce the country's fiscal deficit and provide more revenue for government for developmental projects. The head of the IMF mission that visited Ghana last week, Christina Daseking, in an interview with XYZ Business, said government must heed to their advice. Quote, "We have said in the past, and we continue to say, that fuel subsidies should be removed and replaced by targeted spending to those people who need support and to cushion the impact of that," unquote. The IMF chief also advised government to reduce its domestic borrowing to push interest rates down. The IMF called on government to control the rising wage bill, which could affect the country's transformation agenda. Quote, "The mission urged the government to gain control over the wage bill, and the IMF recommends a thorough audit of the 2012 payroll," unquote. Okay, so we're taking you on a trip around the world and handling all our other briefs in just a bit. Ghana endured one of their worst defeats in their African under-17 history as they lost 6-1 to Nigeria at the 2013 African Junior Championships on Sunday in Morocco. Well, nobody wants negative drama over their baby, but really she should have expected it. That's all we have for you in this episode of the Midday Brief. Before we go, though, let's take a quick look at our headlines and see what we talked about. People have rated President Mahama differently, considering his first 100 days in office. We leave your opinion to you. We took a look at hemophilia, which is an uncommon condition. It's inherited and prevents blood clottage. Striking public medical doctors have rescinded their decision to withdraw emergency services starting today, Monday 15, 2013. They will, however, persist with their withdrawal of services to new outpatients. We brought you international news, showbiz, and sports. My name is Jennifer Jane Asante. Have a good afternoon.